All right, welcome in. I'm off to the owners' meetings tomorrow, so there's going to be a lot coming from Jed York, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch. Brace yourselves. It is the big news event in between free agency and the NFL draft. But as those owners' meetings happen, the big contract trigger date will be here. We know the 49ers love the April 1st trigger date. Well, it's March 29th right now, so Tuesday marks April 1st, and that is going to cause, in all likelihood, some movement regarding the 49ers roster. The big one that we've been talking about a lot is Brandon Aiyuk. I could review exactly what's going to happen on April 1st. You could take a look at Brandon Aiyuk's contract right here. You see the prorated signing bonus stretching out over 5 years. That is shaded in blue. 49ers owe that against the cap no matter what. That's already been paid out. But the option bonus, which is the first one in green, and the second option bonus in teal, both of those impacted by what happens by April 1st. The 49ers don't have much wiggle room here because Brandon Aiyuk is currently hurt. But formally on April 1st, the option bonus is going to hit the salary cap, $4.6 million per year. It's $22.9 million because the majority of Aiyuk's money in 2025 will vest into a guarantee on April 1st. And then also the 2026 option bonus will vest into a guarantee. So, I mean, there's no way for the 49ers to escape that guaranteed money short of a trade of Brandon Aiyuk, which is why we've heard of, maybe they're going to try to trade him before April 1st. But if nobody wants to trade for Brandon Aiyuk, that's a moot point. Anyway, Aiyuk's trigger date is the most significant as far as total money that's going to be affected on April 1st, but there are many others, and I can take you through them right now. Nick Bosa, for example, will see $22.7 million. That's his base salary in 2026 guarantee right now on April 1st, 2025. He'll also have nearly $800,000 of his 2027 salary vest into a full guarantee. Yetur Gross-Matos, $3 million of his 2025 salary will vest into a guarantee on April 1st. A lot of people wondering, Yetur Gross-Matos, so the 49ers going to keep him? Well, they let go of Malik Collins. They let go of Leonard Floyd. Is this trigger date going to do something about Yetur Gross-Matos? They're almost certainly going to keep him. Unlike Collins and Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos is 27 years old. This is not a player on the wrong side of 30. This is a player that I think is very clearly still ascending. The 49ers believe that he can play both the run and the pass, and they love the versatility up front. The ability to move from the edge rusher position inside, a la Charles Omenihu, a la Arden Key. So you're going to see Yetur's salary, $3 million of it guarantee. It was a 2-year deal that they signed last offseason. This is not going to cause the 49ers to move on from Yetur Gross-Matos. It shouldn't be all too hard to understand why the 49ers moved on from Malik Collins and Leonard Floyd, by the way. A lot of people still acting confused. We've gone over this many times, but the 49ers looked at an underperforming defense. I mean, they were near the bottom of the league, especially toward the end of the season. And they said that we can't have expensive veterans who were part of the problem remain on this team. Like, I mean, it was as simple as that. The 49ers were terrible against the run, and guys like Floyd and Collins, they're weak suits, not their strong suits. Their weak suits were against the run, and the 49ers said we'd rather go to the NFL draft instead of paying out, which would have been exorbitant money, $10 million for those players. Free agency is not a cheap place. And the 49ers were able to, I think that for the intents and purposes of what they were looking at in 2024, trying to run it back, trying to plug some holes with veterans who are already made. It made sense to trade for Malik Collins. It made sense to sign Leonard Floyd, but after they went 6-11 with how poorly they performed on defense, it did not make sense to keep them. With Yetur Gross-Matos, this is a younger player who they signed to the 2-year deal. He is owed a $7.39 million base salary in 2025. So $3 million of that will become guaranteed on Tuesday. And I think the 49ers look at that number for Yetur Gross-Matos. It's going to end up being a $9.4 million cap number. For a 27-year-old with versatility, who won an NFC Defensive Player of the Week this past year. 49ers see that as a potential building block upward for this offensive line. In comparison, they were looking at cap hits of about $10 million for Malik Collins and Leonard Floyd, and those were guys who were 3 to 4 years older, which is significant in the NFL, who were not nearly as versatile, who weren't part of this long-term plan to try to solidify the run defense. So Jauan Gross-Matos, in all likelihood, is going to be staying with this football team. Christian McCaffrey. Now, it's not a big day on April 1st for Christian because his big day has already come and passed. That was March 17th, where his option bonus for this 2025 season was due, sort of like the one that is scheduled to be due for Brandon Aiyuk on April 1st. McCaffrey's hit on St. Patrick's Day, $14.2 million, all prorated against the cap. So to illustrate this one more time, let's take a look at Brandon Aiyuk's contract. I don't have Christian's up right now, but it's going to be the same kind of idea, because Christian's is structured in this multi-bonus kind of way. As soon as a particular option bonus does hit, so say for Aiyuk, this one in green on April 1st, so you have $22.9 million. That is the total amount paid to the player. But signing bonuses and option bonuses are stretched out like an accordion against the salary cap. That's a strategy to keep the cap hit lower in the near term for a team. The only thing is, once the bonus is distributed and once it does hit, well, you're going to be responsible for all those cap hits, even if you do trade the player, because that's already on your books. So in the case of Aiyuk, $22.9 million divided by 5, that's $4.6 million over these 5 years. 4.6 hits in 2025, 4.6 hits in 2026, so on and so forth. In the case of Christian McCaffrey, it was $14.2 million. That was registered on March 17th. You divide that $14.2 million divided by 5, so a little less than $3 million, and that's stretched out over the course of the next 5 seasons. It makes a trade a whole lot less financially palatable for a team if an option bonus hits before they are able to execute a trade. So the reason I bring up McCaffrey is that he had a March 17th trigger date. The 49ers were never considering trading him. In the case of Brandon Aiyuk, yes, they've been considering trading Brandon Aiyuk, but he is a player who is coming off a torn ACL and MCL and won't likely be available until mid-season of 2025. That makes him not very attractive on the trade market. Moving on, April 1st trigger date, Deommodore Lenoir. That is a $6.5 million full guarantee of his base salary. I think it's time to sit back and just marvel at how good of a deal the 49ers got for Deommodore Lenoir. He is currently ranked as the 18th highest paid cornerback in the game, and he signed his deal in November. So this was just 5 months ago at most. And Deommodore Lenoir is now ranked number 18 of all cornerbacks. Only $15.5 million of fully guaranteed money. And the contract value of $18 million per year. The $18 million per year is what creates that ranking at number 18. But, I mean, they got a bargain on Deommodore Lenoir. And you have to also credit Demo himself for being willing to sign on the dotted line before he had more leverage this offseason. He knew that he wanted to stay with the 49ers. And, you know, when you talk about hometown discounts, he's from the West Coast. He's from LA. And he said that was really important to him. But when you talk about discounts, Deommodore Lenoir actually did take one, because this is a Pro Bowl cornerback. And I say Pro Bowl, I know I have to put an asterisk there because he didn't technically qualify last year, but he should have. The statistics were good enough. He got jobbed out of that Pro Bowl berth. But this is a Pro Bowl cornerback who is being paid at the 18th highest level amongst cornerbacks in the NFL. He'll have $6.5 million of a base salary that is $6.5 million of his 2025 salary will guarantee. A lot of that's going to come through in an option bonus. The option bonus is prorated to $1.3 million per year. So, but this was, you know, if he's, it's a very similar dynamic as McCaffrey's and Brandon Aiyuk's, but there's never been a question that Deommodore Lenoir would be on the 49ers roster just because of how good of a bargain this is. So the $6.5 million option bonus does officially take hold for Deommodore Lenoir on April 1st. That prorates to $1.3 million per season. 49ers able to keep Demo's cap hit down at $5.8 million in this first full season of his contract extension. Colton McKivitz, $2.2 million of his contract will become fully guaranteed on April 1st. This is the offensive lineman entering the final year of his deal. I'm guessing, based on what the market looked like for offensive linemen, and I mean everybody, but offensive linemen and defensive linemen in free agency, I mean, guys were going off for a lot of money. I'm guessing that Colton McKivitz would love to test free agency next offseason. I think it could be very lucrative for him. I mean, right now, he's the 24th highest paid right tackle. So that means he's somewhere in the 50s amongst all tackles. He's got about $6 million per year. He's entering the final year of his contract with a $3.2 million base salary, plus a lot of per game roster bonus money up to $510,000 and some incentive bonus money, $650,000, plus the workout bonus of $150,000. Anyway, $2.12 million of the $3.2 million base salary becomes guaranteed for Colton McKivitz coming up on Tuesday. And there are a lot of misinformed fans about this one. He is well worth that money for San Francisco. As I said, he ranks in the 50s amongst all tackles, and his performance profile is somewhere in the middle. It's a lot better than what he's being paid, to the point where I think the 49ers would love to extend Colton McKivitz at the rate that they have him right now at $5.9 million per year. But I think that he'd want to try free agency. I don't think that Colton McKivitz would be particularly interested in signing a bargain rate extension with the 49ers right now. But he does get a little bit of that guaranteed money coming in, over $2 million on Tuesday, the April 1st trigger date for the 49ers. Good bang for your buck. That's what the 49ers are getting with Colton McKivitz. And then there is George Odum. This is one that I'm keeping an extra special eye on, because we're going to be able to read into the 49ers strategy depending on what they do here with Odum. Veteran safety, he is due a $1 million guarantee if he's still on the roster April 1st. Now, he is the special teams ace, or has been the special teams ace of this team. They recently signed Siran Neal, who's another DB special teams ace. Siran Neal's going to be with this team for at least this season, signed a 2-year contract. We know that the 49ers special teams was absolutely atrocious last season. So they've been stocking up on that side of the ball through free agency. Siran Neal, Luke Gifford, Jason Pinnock, Richie Grant. All these guys are going to be able to deliver there. They also upgraded the long snapper position, John Weeks over Tabor Pepper. But might the 49ers try to roster 2 special teams aces just to address this extremely problematic area of the game? If they do, then they'll keep George Odum, right? George Odum would mean staying on this roster past April 1st would mean that the 49ers are doubling up at the DB special teams ace category, Odum and Siran Neal. But it wouldn't be surprising to see the 49ers move away from Odum, especially with a new special teams coordinator in Brant Boyer. But if they're going to move away from him, then you've got to do it by April 1st. Otherwise, you're just burning $1 million for no good reason. So that is the trigger date on George Odum's contract. Those are the April 1st dates, plus the Christian McCaffrey March 17th date. There's another one coming up for Jauan Jennings, but that's not until September 1st. And I do have to wonder if Jennings is still going to be under this current contract once that rolls around in about 5 months, because Jennings has a $5.6 million option due on September 1st. But remember, this is a contract year for Jauan Jennings. Remember that he should have had an 1,000-yard receiving season last year. He was the best 49ers wideout, and he is worth way more than the $6 million annually that he's being paid. Jennings and Colton McKivitz are at the same APY right now. So on September 1st, the option bonus of $5.6 million will come due. That is right after training camp and the preseason and right before the regular season. But with no years left on Jauan's deal, I think it would be very prudent for the 49ers to re-sign him at some point over the course of the next few months. And in that case, I don't know if September 1st is going to be a critical date anymore. Almost certainly wouldn't on his contract. But for now, 5.6 million coming Jauan's way on that day. He currently has 3.3 million of this year's money guaranteed, but obviously 5.6 million is greater than 3.3. So that is another vesting date for the 49ers. Amongst the players of interest who have nothing triggering on their contracts on April 1st, George Kittle. That's interesting because he, like Jauan Jennings, might sign an extension. I think it'd be smart for the 49ers this offseason. Nothing on Trent Williams' contract, although his was structured very, very unusually in that he has a $10 million 2026 prorated bonus looming. So Williams, let's see what date that's due. Doesn't have anything due this year because he signed the extension right before the start of the regular season. But in 2026, there is another option bonus that kicks in. Normally you have that kick in the second year, but I think when Williams signed his deal in 2024, right before the regular season, there was, I think, great certainty from the 49ers that he would be around for at least 2 more years, that he'd play 2024 and that he'd play 2025. Then comes the interesting segment of this, and that's 2026 when Williams is age 38. He has said that he wants to play through age 40 or at least up until age 40, but you got to take this on a year-to-year basis, especially for a player with the kind of mileage that Trent Williams has accumulated. Well, anyway, he's got the $10 million bonus prorated over 4 years, not 5, scheduled to kick in 2026. There's no specific date on the bonus hitting for 2026 up on over the cap, but if the 49ers do it like they have in the past with players, April 1st would be the money date for Trent Williams. What I like is that this opens up a good, smart discussion about all of these players and the 49ers contractual decisions with them. So it allows us to look at things in terms of the dollars and cents and say, hey, George Odum may not be on this roster in a few days. Hey, Brandon Aiyuk is going to be even more locked in than he is right now. You know, you could look at all these financial clues. We had one on March 17th with Christian McCaffrey. And then moving forward to next off season, that $10 million date for Trent Williams is going to be big in case there's any speculation about him retiring. Because if that triggers, well, he's probably not going to be retiring for the 49ers. They're going to have to take care of that business before the $10 million date comes in. So we'll get more information on that by the time that 2026 rolls around. The first order of offseason business this year was actually Fred Warner. Did you guys know that Fred Warner, when the season ended, actually technically wasn't under contract for 2025 and 2026 with the 49ers? I know that might scare some people, but the way they built the Warner deal when he signed it back in 2021, they left themselves a contractual out after the 2024 season. Now, obviously, you don't want that out because Fred Warner is one of the best to have ever done it at that linebacker position. He's a revolutionary player. So what the 49ers did is they included a buyback bonus. It was a $3.6 million purchase. They pay Fred Warner $3.6 million. All of a sudden, 2025 and 2026 are no longer void years, and they become years during which Warner is under contract with the 49ers. So the deadline to do that was February 12th. The 49ers obviously did that. They paid Fred Warner his $3.6 million. He remains on the team for 2 more seasons. I obviously think they're going to extend George Kittle this offseason because it's his last year. Warner now is 2 more years. Jennings last year. So the guys with only 1 year left, Purdy, Jennings, Warner, Purdy, Jennings, Kittle, you expect new contracts for this offseason. I then wonder, do they try to get way out in front of things with Fred Warner and extend him with 2 years still left on his deal? Might not be the most financial upside for Fred Warner if he decides to sign on the dotted line this offseason, but I would venture out and say this is not the quarterback position. This is linebacker. He played on a broken foot last season. He might want a little extra signing bonus, little extra financial security on the sooner end of the spectrum rather than the later end of the spectrum. And I think it could serve the 49ers well if they could get an extension with Fred Warner done on the earlier side. I can take you through some of his pay that's going to be due over the course of the next couple seasons. 2025, Warner, a $17.7 million base salary. So even if they don't extend him, they can restructure Fred Warner this year, move that down to the veteran minimum and push, signing bonus money back into the future. That's how the 49ers love to operate. And then ahead of 2026, I mean, that's going to be his age 30 season. Remember, he's only going to be 29 this year. And when we see how well Bobby Wagner and his game have aged, well, future Hall of Famers just do it a little bit differently. And I think that you could definitely afford to take that contractual commitment well past the age of 30. Just a special player. The 2026 numbers are also $17.6 million base salary for Fred Warner and $600,000 in total potential bonus money. Salary cap hit rises for Fred Warner this year to $29 million. That's why I think they might restructure him. He's the most expensive player on the 2025 cap. There's a lot of money there that you can push into the future. And we know the 49ers love to surf the wave of that rising salary cap. One other player of note, no trigger date on his contract this offseason is Jake Brendle, the center. It's one of the most asked about players. I know that fans want an upgrade at the center position. They always ask me, what's the deal with Jake Brendle's contract? Well, there's nothing guaranteed. We're past the guaranteed portion of his contract and nothing triggers in 2025. So he's due a $3.2 million base salary, age 33 season, and he's under contract like Warner through 2026, where there's a $3.6 million base salary, plus about $610,000 in per game roster bonus and workout bonus guarantees. Brendle also has an incentive bonus of $500,000, which I am not sure if that's for the Pro Bowl, but it's an incentive bonus on top of the workout and per game roster bonuses. So that's where the 49ers stand with him. If they cut Brendle, they don't have to pay him the money that is on the books for him this year. So nothing guaranteed there for the 49ers, although they would have to find a center upgrade. Maybe, the Matt Hennessy, Jake Brendle battle is going to be one that we watch. 49ers have another center who they poached off of Atlanta's practice squad, and we will see how the draft with the 11 picks ends up. So I just ran through every single one of the 49ers contract triggers, and also I ran through some of the players who do not have an April 1st trigger on their contract. Somebody said, I can't imagine our team without Fred Warner. Yeah, it'd be hard to imagine that. The core four, right? You go back to 2017, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle joined then, Fred Warner joined in 2018, and Nick Bosa was drafted in 2019. Christian McCaffrey didn't join until a couple years after that, 2022, but he certainly feels like a indispensable part of the 49ers fabric. Brandon Aiyuk joined in 2020. He's been around now for a while. Deebo Samuel, 2019, but he is gone. He is now in Washington. Bo thinks that Hennessy will win the competition with Jake Brendle. We'll see. I'll have my popcorn ready. Going to be interesting. You've seen a guy that says that Ricky was number 1 and Jennings is 2. Well, first off, no actual football coach uses that kind of terminology. They're going to go X, Z, F, receiver. They're playing different positions. Second off, Jauan Jennings had a much more productive season than Ricky Pearsall. He had nearly 1,000 yards. I will say, though, that Ricky Pearsall finished off strong, and he was the favorite target over those past 2 games, 18 targets for Ricky Pearsall. But this is a team sport. They're playing complementary roles. It's not like a competition here, like, oh, who's number 1, who's number 2. Fans love to talk that way, but the 49ers are going to have their X, and we know that Brandon Aiyuk is the best X on this team when he's healthy, but he's probably not going to be available for at least the first half of the year. So Jauan played the X instead of him last year. And I think Demarcus Robinson can play some X for the 49ers. Jauan Jennings last year, it was epic. First, he played at the Z in place of Deebo Samuel, and he just destructed the Rams defense. That was in week 3. Then after Aiyuk got hurt, Jauan Jennings moved to the X, so he could play multiple different positions. All I know is that this is a good offseason to extend Jauan Jennings, who has got that dog in him. As Eric said, Jennings was the man. That is true. I'm not too far from where Jauan Jennings grew up right now in Tennessee. Chris says, hopefully Jair Brown can play better. Yep, he regressed last season. That's for sure. Now, they brought in safety competition for Jair Brown. They brought in Jason Pinnock, and they brought in Richie Grant. Here's a look at the roster. They really needed to fortify safety because of what we see here. Jair Brown struggling. Malik Mustafa, yeah, that was nice for San Francisco, but more is definitely needed. This episode is brought to you by Mando, whole body deodorant, safe to use anywhere on your body. It's created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. All products from Mando are baking soda free. Clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, and free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use the code Lombardi at shopmando.com. That is shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. And if you want to support the channel, go do that. Go to shopmando.com, but also hit that subscribe button right now. Hit the like button. Yeah, how nice is it that I don't flood you guys with 18 minutes of advertisements to begin the show? I feel like, and betting advertisements and, all this crazy stuff. We just got a nice clean layout here, and we pick our sponsors very carefully. Mando, one of them, they sent me the box of their product. It's good stuff, so check it out. But anyway, if you appreciate all that, please do hit that subscribe button and hit the like button, and let's move forward. Facts from Eric Gomes. I love it. People are sleeping on Ben Barch, says Cobra. I have Ben Barch as my starting left guard on my depth chart for the 49ers. So I don't think I'm sleeping on him. I think he was really good last year. We'll see what the 49ers do in the draft. I think he'll be competing with Nick Zakelj at that guard position. And maybe the 49ers add somebody else. One thing that I believe has developed over the course of this offseason, Spencer Burford, I think, is now a tackle. We saw him play swing tackle to end the 2024 season, and he was better there than he had been at guard. So consider Burford the leader in the clubhouse to be the 49ers swing tackle at the current moment, but the 49ers will try to get a tackle into the building. When I talk about through the draft, when I talk about draft strategy, I think in the simplest terms, if Armand Membu or Will Campbell are there at 11, take those guys, because it's a deep defensive tackle class. It's a deep defensive end class. It's a deep running back class. You've never drafted a cornerback in the first round anyway. You don't need a quarterback. And I think there's some good wideout prospects a little bit later on in this draft, too. I don't think Tetairoa McMillan is necessarily the best fit for the 49ers, and he's the guy that's going to go really high up in this draft. But anyway, if one of those premier offensive tackles is available, you take him. If not, you strongly consider heeding the advice of this guy, Bill Walsh, and what he did in the 1986 draft. I mean, I wish I could find this on demand right now. I think I might be able to, actually. The 1986 NFL draft and trading back yielded one of the greatest hauls in NFL history. Right now, I'm reading about the 85 season, so I could flip forward a page. Yep, here we go, 1986. Okay, here we go. We have the good stuff. This is going to be very, very resemblant. By the way, reading out of this, I should just hold this over my face as I'm reading from Bill Walsh. This is funny. This will probably improve the sound quality. It's not going to be bouncing around the room as much. But sizing up the incoming group of collegians before draft day, Bill Walsh concluded that while there weren't many truly outstanding players, there was a deep field of players who could become serviceable starters. So the strategy he adopted was to go after quantity and to trade down to get as many picks as possible. Since the Niners already had a reputation for making draft day trades, John McVay, that is Sean McVay's grandfather, had been collecting a long list of options over several weeks when Bill started to make moves. And come draft day, the second floor at 49ers headquarters took on the air of a commodities market. McVay often had a phone on each ear and several more callers on hold, all wanting a deal. Most thought Walsh's commitment to going lower in the draft order was a mental aberration and were quick to want to take advantage of him. Eddie D was back in Youngstown following the action on a speakerphone and jokingly asked Bill at one point if he was going to keep trading until he owned every pick in the 10th round. Back when the 10th round was a thing. 7 is it now. It was a heretofore unheard of set of maneuvers. Okay, listen to all these trades back that Bill Walsh did in 1986. Bill traded the number 18 pick in the first round to Dallas for its pick at number 20 plus a 5th rounder. So he created 2 picks. He created 1 pick. But 2 in return created 1 extra pick. Then he packaged the Dallas pick plus 1 of his own in the 10th round to Buffalo for their 2nd and 3rd round selections. Buffalo's 2nd rounder was traded to Detroit for their 2nd and 3rd round picks. He also moved another 2nd round pick to Washington for their 1st rounder in 1987. Along the way, the Philadelphia Eagles called to ask if the apparently crazy 49ers president would trade his backup quarterback, Matt Cavanaugh, for a 3rd rounder now plus a 2nd round pick next year. Putting that proposal on hold, Mike Holmgren, who was on the 49ers staff, remembered Bill hung up the phone and said he had a chance to trade Cavanaugh and asked, "What do you think?" Cavanaugh was an excellent backup, and to a man, every coach in the room said, "Don't do it." Bill listened politely and then said, "You guys don't know anything." He picked up the phone and said, "Trade him." To cover that sudden vacancy on the roster, Walsh then moved one of his 3rd rounders from Detroit to the Rams for 2 fourths and backup quarterback Jeff Kemp. All told, Bill Walsh had made 6 trades, leaving him with 1 choice in the 2nd round, 3 in the 3rd, 3 in the 4th, 1 each in the 5th and the 6th, and another 5 picks between rounds 8 and 10. The Niners didn't even make a selection until the draft had been going on for more than 5 hours. Then, declaring it's time to get to work, Bill Walsh proceeded to prove that his analysis of what this draft offered had been right on the mark. Who'd they pick in 1986? Well, Larry Roberts, a defensive end out of Alabama, which was actually the 49ers' highest pick, but the name that you probably won't remember. That was the a 2nd round pick. The 49ers would have chosen him with their 1st round pick had they kept it, but he was there in the 2nd. Then Bill Walsh chose Tom Rathman from Nebraska in the 3rd round. Cornerback Tim McKier from University of Texas, Arlington, and receiver John Taylor from Delaware State in the 3rd round. In the 4th round, he picked Charles Haley out of James Madison, future Hall of Famer, and offensive tackle Steve Wallace out of Auburn. Miami defensive tackle Kevin Fagan was one of the 49ers' 3 4th-round picks. Cornerback Don Griffin from Middle Tennessee State in round 6. I just read through 8 players, all of whom would become starters for the 49ers. The 2 corners were starters in their rookie year. 5 would eventually make the Pro Bowl. The 1986 draft performance was easily the most productive draft in anyone's memory. And considering where he'd started, Bill Walsh called it maybe the best draft in NFL history. The future backbone of the 49ers' 3rd incarnation was in the fold, and Bill Walsh's reputation as the genius had been buttressed yet again. The parallels between what I just read in 1986 to now, as far as what this draft class is shaping up to be, what the analysts are saying about this class, to me are eerie. Back in 86, they said there wasn't a lot of premier talent, but there was a lot of mid-level talent. You could get a lot of starters out of the draft. So the 49ers, they welt and dealt, right? Wheeled and dealed, I guess, would be a better way to put it. And they ended up with 8 starters coming out of that draft. 8, and 5 Pro Bowlers and 8 starters, including Charles Haley, future Hall of Famer. Tom Rathman, great player as well for the 49ers. So that's how they operated in 86 to take advantage of that meat in the middle of the draft. And then you fast forward here to 2025, and one of the appraisals of this draft that I heard, and I made a short on it the other day, was that, you know, you have your top 100 prospects every year. There's an argument that about 150 players are top 100 worthy this year. So you've got a stronger core of the draft, and it's not known as being as top heavy, same as 1986. So if Armand Membu, premier tackle, or Will Campbell, premier tackle, or whoever else you consider a premier tackle, in there at number 11, it might behoove the 49ers to trade back. Now, Bill Walsh was the crazy guy trading back in 86. Teams were always eager to trade up. You have to find a suitor to trade back with, right? And I think teams now are much more educated about how this kind of stuff works, and there may be more teams trying to trade back. So maybe it's not possible for the 49ers to trade back from number 11. But if those tackles aren't there, because they've got such high standards for tackles, because that's the one position where, yes, if they're drafting up high now, number 11, if there's a tackle there with Trent Williams' age, with the situation at right tackle, Colton McKivitz only under contract for 2025, take the offensive tackle. But if the tackle's not there and you recognize the depth of this draft beyond that position, I think that trading back, if it is possible, could be a very, very good play for the 49ers. Chris watched a few games in 86 at Candlestick Park. There you go. I wonder if this picture was taken in 1986 with Bill Walsh. We'll get more into that at a later time. Thank you for this. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support of everybody. Right now, I'm hungry. It's a little bit later for me than where you guys are. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. It was a fun time. We talked about all of the contractual triggers happening on April 1st. That is Tuesday. Another 49ers alarm clock update is going to be happening tomorrow. That is going to be in the morning, as it always is. If there's news, I'll cover it. Then I fly out to Florida in the afternoon. West Palm Beach for the owners meeting. So definitely hit that subscribe button now. We're going to have news after this long desert without it. We're going to have some news. We're going to have some quotes. We're going to have some good stuff coming up over the next few days coming from Florida. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Everybody, thank you for watching. We will talk to you very soon.